Okay, so today we're going to go over one of the most fundamental and functional exercises you can perform, the single leg deadlift. I'm going to slowly lower the weight down to the ground, aiming it towards my left foot slightly. Notice the blue line here. I've shifted my weight backwards to maintain a nice mechanical advantage, which decreases the stress on my back. This is called a posterior weight shift. Notice the yellow line here. My ankle is in line with my hip, which is in line with my shoulder, which is in line with my ear, along with I'm keeping a nice neutral cervical spine, so I'm kind of looking straight towards the ground at this point. When I return to the starting position, I am bringing my hips back over my heels. This gives me a nice advantage to squeeze my glutes, to utilize those to bring me back up, and not my lower back. From this point of view, you can see this is the side where the kettlebell is. I'm maintaining that same alignment we spoke about earlier. Got my hip hinging backwards, keeping my alignment all the way from my foot to my head, with slight scapular retraction to keep my scapula in a neutral position. At this point, you may be wondering about my knee bending. This is a personal preference. You're going to find the best position for your knee that gets the best glute activation. I like to have a slight bend, but your goal is definitely not to squat into this position, as your goal here for this exercise is to work on your hip hinge. From the posterior view, we're looking at the hips to be level. What you'll see sometimes is you'll end up turning your chest out to the right, which will cause the hips to be unlevel, cause some lumbar spine rotation. I'm also looking at the blue line here to make sure that my knee isn't tracking far outside of my foot in either direction, whether it be on the outside or the inside of the foot. This is going to be an anatomical difference that everyone's going to look a little bit different. You can see as the video plays, my knee kind of comes in, comes out, but I keep it steady. I normally prefer this exercise barefoot. It's a little bit harder in these comfy, soft shoes to keep the best alignment because I can't use my foot muscles like I would like to. Here's an example of what it looks like when you don't shift your weight backwards. Notice the blue line again. I shifted back slightly, but it's nowhere near what it was like in the previous examples. Here's an example of looking up and not keeping a neutral cervical spine. This can cause some neck stress as well as decrease your strength in your lower body. Here's an example of rotating through my hips and my back. It's actually a really good hip rotation exercise. I didn't quite turn my back. I'm not into demonstrating terrible technique on myself, but you get the idea here. The next example is not lifting your foot high enough. So you see here the yellow line. My foot is not in line with my hip and my shoulder anymore. This takes away from the mechanical advantage and can cause some stress through the back, making this a poor technique. This next example is squatting into your single leg deadlift. Like we talked about before, this is a hip hinge primarily exercise. Although this is a great single leg squat exercise, it is not the goal of the single leg deadlift. But hey, might as well knock out a few, get my single leg squat on, right? This last example is another classic rotation through the hip. Again, I didn't want to really do my spine too hardcore here. Had to work the rest of the day, but again, you get the idea.